Okay.
Okay, so we're at the salting part. Two things that potatoes need. They need salt, meaning a good amount of salt.
May I?
Yeah. Ooh, why so much? Don't put so much.
What? That we're just lightly salting it?
Okay.
Just a little bit more?
Get it in there. Come on.
Oh, was
Come
that
on.
take-
Don't
what?
play games.
A little bit more?
Don't play games. Get this over here. Take it out and dump away.
Dump.
Go. Just go. Easily dump. Go. Come on. Go.
What?
yeah.
Dump. Wait, hold on. I feel
Easily
like
dump.
this is a great moment. Since this
I'm
is
sorry we're not
since this
measuring
is a
it.
Christian broadcast, I feel like this is a great opportunity to say, Jesus talks in the Sermon on the Mount of having a life that's seasoned with salt.
Very good.
Right? We don't want to lose our seasoning. So, Pastor Derek, since you're the executive pastor of our church, why don't you show us how to season a potato, having a life that's seasoned with salt?
That's what we want. We want our lives to be very seasoned with salt.
Yes.
And we want our potatoes to be very seasoned with salt.
Look
as
at
well.
that. Oh my goodness.
So,
He's still going. What are you doing? It's
on.
saltier than the ocean.
Okay.
Hey everybody, Pastor Michael here, and I'm with Pastor Derek Presenta. We are actually here in Pastor Derek's house, and we are doing our Living Well series. And I don't know if everybody knows you necessarily because they know that your name and they know you're important because you're an executive pastor at our church, but the very nature of your job is that you're behind the scenes, making it happen, making sure everything's running and rolling, and not everybody gets the chance to really know you, but everybody who does know you knows that you are known for your hospitality. Did you know that?
A little bit.
It's also
I
humble.
guess it's just yeah.
Yeah, you know, hospitable and humble people don't like to really talk about it all the time.
I
They
would
just like to
say
take care of
that's
it.
accurate.
And that's you. So everybody who knows you knows that you are known for your hospitality. And so one of the things we wanted to talk to everybody about is how do we live well? Some people kind of take hospitality naturally. They just naturally are hospitable, or their families are. Other people really struggle with it. So we're going to maybe talk a little bit about your journey in hospitality and getting the chance to do that. But just some practical things, because we're heading into the holidays. I think this is coming out the day before Thanksgiving. So happy holidays to everybody. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you. We're going to do something fun today. One of the things that we're going to do to teach you guys how to be hospitable is we're going to cook one of Pastor Derek's best dishes. This is one of my favorite dishes that he makes. He does. And what's the type of potato that we're using today?
I'll get to that. I'll get to that.
All right. Well, but what is it called? It's a red potato, right?
Yukon Gold.
Right. So a Yukon Gold mashed potatoes. They are literally the best mashed potatoes I've ever had in my life. So I'm excited to share that with you. And we have onion goggles. That's exciting. Now, are these what is the purpose of onion goggles? This is to keep me from.
I don't know. You wanted to put the onion goggles there.
Yeah.
We're not cooking with onions today.
Oh, we're not.
We're not putting onions in the mashed potatoes. No.
Okay. I just thought they were exciting.
Have you heard of that before?
No, but
I haven't either.
I've also never used these before.
Yeah.
How do I look?
You should keep them on.
Do I?
You should
Can I
keep
see?
them on.
What do you look like when you wear them?
Yeah.
Let's try it.
Probably a little more handsome than you.
Oh,
There we go.
But we are.
But I
in
will
his house.
say, we're not cooking with onions today. This has absolutely no application whatsoever. But these are the only things that work for burning eyes and onions. I
Everybody's going
encourage
to
you.
go out and buy that. Right
Amazon,
after Thanksgiving,
right
Black
here.
Friday, get those for your family members that you love for the holidays, for Christmas. Okay, actually, they're about to fall off the counter. There we go. All right, so what are we cooking today? Pastor Derek, take it away. Teach us how to cook this recipe, and we'll talk about hospitality on the way.
Sounds good. Love mashed potatoes. Obviously, a Thanksgiving staple. Probably most of you are going to be doing that on Thanksgiving. And, you know, I'm a little hesitant because everybody knows how to make mashed potatoes. There's a simplicity to it. But there are a little few things that I like to incorporate, little techniques here and there that you may or may not know, and hopefully those might be helpful to you. And you probably have certain things that you do that I don't do that I could learn from. So hopefully this will be helpful to you along the way. So we're making mashed potatoes, as Pastor Michael said, using Yukon Gold. And the reason for that is there's three basic potatoes for mashed potatoes that you potentially can use. Red potatoes, Yukon Gold, or which one was the other one?
The Idaho potato.
Idaho russet potato.
Russet, that's the one.
Russets are not so good. They have great flavor, actually better potato flavor than Yukon Gold, but they can get a little grainy. They're not as creamy and smooth. And red can be very creamy and smooth, but they can get a little bit waxy and kind of gummy. So the Yukon Gold's right in the middle, and that's why I prefer to use Yukon Gold.
I love that. Now, for people who are watching who didn't think that we'd actually be teaching them how to do this, they sat down for like a Bible study, and now they just went and grabbed their pens and their notebooks because they realized this is about to go down. So let's do this. Look at that. There it is. I don't know if we could show that because it's definitely gonna. These are beautiful. They even look gold. That's very nice.
Okay, so we are
grabbing them.
we're grabbing two. We're moving along.
Now, why were they in water?
Okay, so you can prep them ahead of time, stick them in water, obviously, so they don't turn brown and oxidize.
Okay.
If you left them out, that would happen, but you can keep them in there like even up to 24 hours ahead of time.
Yeah.
And they stay fine.
Nice.
So I left two of them uncut because the cutting is very important. So you see they're kind of cut into discs. What would be the reason for that? I told you I'm going to quiz you along the way.
So I'm being quizzed. Okay. Now, I'm not a chef. This is what we're cutting them into?
Well, this is more of a disc.
Oh, okay.
Grab that one.
All right, so here we go. So
our hands have been washed.
This is a pretty thick disc.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why would they be soaked, or why would they be?
Why would they be in disc shape as
wide
opposed
disc.
to chunks kind of a thing?
My guess would be that it's easier to get a more even.
Oh, impressed. I'm impressed.
Am I right?
I'm impressed.
Huh? Okay. That way, the fat part of the potato's not raw and the tips are cooked.
Correct. So there's more exposure of the potato to the water. Not only that, one of the keys is cutting them even, the exact same size so they cook evenly.
Right.
So when you cut them in discs, you're able to get them to as close to the same size as possible.
Okay. Nice.
So that's the reason why. So that's probably like a 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch.
Good cutting technique, the folded fingers.
Folded
Very
fingers,
nice.
some behind.
Yeah, don't cut yourself. How many times have you cut yourself while in your own kitchen?
I have what they call finger cots in my bathroom,
Oof.
which after you cut,
You got to run over there and get those.
yeah, and you cover up your finger. Absolutely.
So even the best make mistakes. Don't feel bad if you slip.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, so we're at the salting part. Two things that potatoes need. They need salt, meaning a good amount of salt.
May I?
Yeah. Ooh, why so much? Don't put so much.
What? That we're just lightly salting it?
Okay.
Just a little bit more?
Get it in there. Come on.
Oh, was
Come
that
on.
take-
Don't
what?
play games.
A little bit more?
Don't play games. Get this over here. Take it out and dump away.
Dump.
Just go. Easily dump. Go. Come on, go.
What?
yeah.
Dump. Wait, hold on. I feel
Easily
like
dump.
this is a great moment. Since this
sorry
is a Christian broadcast, I feel like this is a great opportunity to say Jesus talks in the Sermon on the Mount of having a life that's seasoned with salt.
Very good.
Right? We don't want to lose our seasoning. So, Pastor Derek, since you're the executive pastor of our church, why don't you show us how to season a potato, having a life that's seasoned with salt?
That's what we want. We want our lives to be very seasoned with salt, and,
Yes.
and we want our potatoes to be very seasoned with salt.
Look
as
at
well.
Oh my goodness.
No.
He's still going. What are you doing? It's
on,
saltier than the ocean.
Okay, so
What in the world?
you just
There is salt resting on the. It looks like it snowed on the potatoes.
so
in
the
the pot.
reason, obviously, potatoes need salt, but the reason for that is the best way to get the salt into the potatoes. So you don't want to salt after the potatoes are already mashed.
These are going to be super Christian potatoes.
in the potatoes. So they need that. So they need that. They need butter, a lot of butter. We'll talk about that later. And this is Thanksgiving, so it's only once a year, but you kind of go for it on Thanksgiving.
I feel like we say that about every holiday, though. This is only once a year, but then we have 20 of those a year, and we end up.
So we're ready to start boiling.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry, another little thing. So you're noticing I'm starting them in cold water. Why am I starting them in cold water and not getting the water boiling first and putting them in?
Is this a science experiment? Test?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So why would you start them in cold water? You would start them in cold water so that they cook more evenly again.
Very
I'm
good.
Gonna use the same exact answer. This is like saying Jesus in kids' church.
It works. 'Cause you're
There
right.
you go. All right, great. Now, why though? Why does it help?
Because if you put them in boiling hot water, it would cook the outsides first, and the outsides would overcook before you cook the inside. So this way, it's a much steadier, slower heat that cooks the potato very evenly, as opposed to from the outside in, overcooking the outside.
This is why we don't dive into when you're a new believer, pre-trib, mid-trib, post-trib. We start with like, love your neighbor, learn to forgive.
Absolutely.
This is just like the potatoes.
Absolutely.
I'm excited. We're getting some deep truths out
So
of
now
these
we're
potatoes.
just at the boiling point.
Okay. All right, so let's
turn
do
this
it.
baby
So
on.
cover the top. Now we just go all the way high, right? Like boil them.
Boil them. Crank it.
Okay.
So this is going to be 20, 25 minutes, maybe close to a half hour, somewhere like that.
All right. We're not going to make you watch us boil potatoes for 25 minutes, but while we wait, one of the things that we wanted to talk to you about, Pastor Derek, is where did you, one, get your love of cooking, and then two, you really do have an excellent reputation, not just in our church, but among all your friend groups. I'm actually a part of your family. You married my beautiful aunt, and so I've known you my whole life, and you've always shown hospitality. And so I know that's something that's very important in our family. Was that important for you growing up in your family as well? Is that something you learned later? Is that something that makes it easier now that you've married my aunt? Or tell me the whole story. You know,
That's a good question. I would say growing up, no, I wouldn't say it was that much part of my family necessarily for me growing up. But looking back, I think it started in college for me because that was my first opportunity to be on my own, be in my own apartment, and I had to cook for myself and learned that I really enjoyed it, loved it, and I kind of did okay at it, and so I kind of started that from there. But also, I had the opportunity to welcome another student into our apartment. It was a 2-bedroom apartment, and another friend of mine were renting it, but another student didn't have enough money, couldn't stay at the school, so he needed a place to stay. So I just let him stay in our apartment for.
that's the first like memory that you have of going outside
Yeah.
your own means, really. Or
Yeah,
within
just trying
your
to.
means
Yeah,
help.
just trying to meet needs where I could.
You're a Christian at
and-
this point, right? You went to ORU,
Or Roberts University.
which Pastor Stephen loves.
Yeah.
You guys are both alum, which is very cool.
Pastor Stephen and quite a few others,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah.
Yeah. So I enjoyed doing that, and I guess that just was just my heart going out for this guy, and bringing him into our home, into our apartment, was kind of, I guess, an easy thing to do. It just fit who I was, and I loved trying to help him, and so that was it was easy. And I guess that was one of the beginnings. I did see glimpses of reaching out to those, even in my elementary years, of kids, the kids that were really lonely, no friends, just kind of isolated. I just found myself naturally reaching out to them, and I guess my heart just went in that direction. So I guess there's an element of a gift there, but it's just one of the many gifts, and everybody has certain gifts that are stronger than others. But everybody also has the gifts. Everybody also has an element of each gift.
Yeah. Well, that's a great point, because someone might be listening to you right now going, well, look at that. I mean, he's known since he was a kid that he's had a heart for the marginalized. He's had opportunities to take care of others and the means to be hospitable like that. But they might be listening and saying, I don't know if I have that heart, or if that's my gift, or if I have the means. What would you say if someone not necessarily walking comfortably in the gift of hospitality, love of cooking aside, you don't have to love cooking to be hospitable, but what are some practical things that you found either in your personal life, in your marriage, in working with people in the church, in your specific community, to help you be more hospitable? And what would you say to somebody who says, I don't really have that gift? Well, here are some things you can do anyway. And there's the dog chiming in, which is nice. All right.
Great question. So I love to reference Romans 12, what I call the 7 motivational gifts in Romans 12. Administrator, giver, teacher, perceiver, server, exhorter, and one more. Oh, mercy, hospitality. Right, okay. That's the 7 motivational gifts. And I believe everybody has an element of those gifts in them, but I also believe that some of those gifts are stronger. And they can go like 1 to 7 where those stronger gifts are. And I believe God can show you over time what your strengths are, what your strong gifts are, and even what your weaker gifts are. And then you really focus on those stronger gifts to allow God to use you where he has naturally gifted you. However, everybody will be called upon at some point to exercise each one of the motivational gifts in their lives. And I'm reminded of something that somebody said to me recently, which really just simple but powerful. She said she had to face a really challenging situation. I said, "Are you sure you're okay with that?" And she said, "Yeah, God is always challenging me to get comfortable with being uncomfortable."
Yeah, that's good.
To get comfortable with being, in other words, you're asking the question, somebody that's not comfortable with hospitality, God is going to ask you to do that at some point and be hospitable to someone in some way. Maybe not invite them into your home to stay, but God, so it's really just allowing God to use what he's poured in you, the love that he's poured in you, the grace that he's poured in you, take that step of faith and allow him to use you in that area and get comfortable with being uncomfortable so you can grow that area that may not be one of your biggest strengths, and that's okay.
And you might say today, it's not one of my strengths, but in a few years, when somebody asks you what your gifts are, you might say hospitality. But now that's because you've been walking in it and practicing it. You see that it is a gift that you've grown in, and that's just part of who you are now, which is great. Now, you have taken people in. This house has been known, myself included. You just take people in, sometimes for months, years at a time. You've let people just live here for free, and just to help them in whatever season they're in and moving on to the next stage. And there are a lot of people listening right now who are like, no way. Like, I got kids, or I don't feel comfortable with that, with my wife being in the house, or I don't just feel comfortable because I'm alone. What would you say gave you wisdom, or what was some of the wisdom that God gave you for how to navigate those seasons? And also, what were some of the blessings and benefits of being that hospitable, saying this isn't just my house, this is God's house, and God's asking me to do this, so I'm going to do it. I'm sure it probably wasn't the most comfortable or the easiest all the time. What were some of the blessings and benefits?
Because you said you stayed here for a while.
Well, we're not going to talk about that one. That was real hard.
Well, you said not easy and uncomfortable.
It was very uncomfortable. No, I'm just kidding. You were great. But what have you seen as far as the blessings that God has given to you? Not that you do it for blessings, but what has God shown you when you were obedient in those things?
Sure. So, like I said, I think I noticed that heart that God gave me when I was just a kid, reaching out to some of the other kids, and then of course that college situation, and then when I got married, I knew I had that heart and could welcome people into the home. And as Debbie and I were dating and engaged, we didn't really talk about that too much. But what was so neat was that, and I'm looking over here, and you guys don't know this, but right behind the camera are my in-laws, Dave and Angela Sinclair.
My grandparents. Yeah. Our in-house audience.
And
love you guys.
The beautiful thing is, even though Deb and I didn't talk about it, Debbie grew up in a home with Dave and Angela living that lifestyle of hospitality by allowing people to live in their home for months, even years at a time, and allowing God to use you in that way. And so Debbie had that in her heart already as well. And so, it was just amazing that God put us together to have a heart to do that. Yes, thank you. Little tilt.
Little tilt.
There you go.
This is a tip. We're in the middle of a beautiful moment, but
that's good.
Just like that.
That's good.
And that'll take care of it.
Good.
All right, great.
Good. So it was just wonderful as Deb and I moved on in our marriage, and we saw that God put that in our hearts, and the willingness and I guess the grace. I'll take this off completely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go. And so you start with the tilt, and then you move to completely off. Now, do we have to lower this?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yeah, we do.
Should I dry the top of this?
No, don't worry about it. No, it's okay.
Really?
Yeah.
There you go. Things to not
so
worry
I think
about.
It was great to see Debbie and I had the same heart, the same willingness, the same grace to allow people to be in our home, to minister to them over weeks, months, or some people for years. And we've just done that throughout the years. And I've trusted and hoped that God used us to invest in people's lives and bring them through some challenging times. And so again, that's something that, if you call it a gift, I guess, or God gives you grace, that's something that we can do and God has called us to do, but it's not everybody. But there's certainly things that God is calling everybody else to do that we're not necessarily fit for as well. So
I think an important lesson for everybody in this is that it's not that it's just something that God's asked you to do. I think more people who are willing to obey to that level would see that God's asking them to do similar things or similar uncomfortable things. You're living a life of extreme obedience in that regard, and it is blessing many people. I know there were seasons of my life, if I didn't live here or hang with you guys, I couldn't have had what I needed for the next season. So it's really blessed me. I know there are literally dozens of other people in the same boat. And beyond that, beyond just the actually living with you, I know that, and this one's probably a little more applicable to most people in our congregation, is if tonight, after all this, we're done and you clean up and you're like, oh, all right, because we're going to go to work after this. We're going to go back to the church and do all the other things we have to do for the day. But when we come home and we're resting and, a bunch of young adults from the table or some friends just stopped over. They're just like, hey, I was in the area. And they just came in. There were 10 of them. I've never seen you or my aunt ever go, oh, not now, guys. You're always just like, all right, well, you're here, so there's a refrigerator, and if you guys want to help out in the back, it'd be great. Or if you guys want to move the table downstairs, you just always like, two things. One, how do you practice not letting those things bother you? What do you do to make it so that this is just a natural, comfortable way of living? And two, how do you find that you are able to protect your alone time and your family time if these things happen as often as they do? I'm sure people have both of those questions.
Yeah, it does happen often, and it's great. And we have 4 boys, and they're older now, but they were teenagers not too long ago, and this house was filled pretty regularly for sure. And we loved every minute of it, and still do. I guess we've always looked at our home as not only a place for us to grow in our relationships together with each other, but obviously just to welcome people in to build those relationships. And what a better place to build relationships than kind of in a home, sometimes. And so...
well, some people might say, well, let's go out. Let's go out for a cup of coffee. Let's go out to a restaurant.
Yeah.
But you're saying, you're admitting that's not quite the same thing as come to my home. Mm-hmm. And you're seeing that, and because you've seen the benefits of it, you're saying, keep coming. Keep coming. Bring whoever. We want them to be blessed here.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Of course. And I guess, we've heard this probably in a song many years ago, but it's so true, and it bears repeating quite often. But I often remind myself it's not about me. Mm-hmm. Yes, I need my home to be comfortable. Yes, I need it to be protected. Yes, I need to have relationship with my family that is prioritized. But it's also just not about me in the sense of my comfort, my convenience, everything working, great for me. But at the same time, it does, because we love pouring into people's lives and seeing the fruit of that in them, and it just feel like, just like you said, being obedient to what God's calling us to do.
Yeah, amen. Well, and I know so many people, anybody listening to this who doesn't know you, if they ask somebody who does, chances are that person's been to your house, probably on the fly, just stopped by and had a great time, hung out, maybe made dinner like this with you. I know every time I come over, you're making something, and just been blessed by your hospitality and your family's hospitality. And so that's great. I think more people more Christians, especially in seasons where, like right now, there's a sense that we're becoming more and more different. To really live as a true believer is becoming more and more strange in our culture. And it's not the ability to point out where the world is wrong according to Scripture, or the tie that you wear on a Sunday, or how often you go to church on Sunday. That's not the thing that changes people's lives. What changes people's lives and goes, I actually want to hear more about why you're different, is I'm in your home and you're taking care of me, and I see a love in you that I don't see anywhere else. Sure. And so thank you for being an example to all of us on how to do that very well.
And I love being inspired by the gifts in other people and how God uses them as well. And it challenges me to get comfortable with being uncomfortable in those areas that I can learn from as well.
And that's why we're doing this series, Living Well.
So if we could pause for a moment.
I was just going to say, let's pivot back to what's happening, because these are starting to get very angry in front of me.
We don't want to overcook the potatoes.
What happens if you overcook a potato?
All right, we're going to get to that in a second.
Oh, I'm excited.
So, this is certainly one of the most important elements. They're not ready yet.
Okay.
one of the most important elements of cooking the potatoes is the correct doneness, because if you undercook them, they're less creamy. If you overcook them and oversaturate them with the water, they kind of get gluey and gummy.
Yeah.
So the proper doneness is critical, but we're not there yet. So I'll show you how to test that when we get there.
People keep taking notes. It's getting better and better. So where did you get your love of cooking? You mentioned you going to college and you started cooking for yourself for the first time, and you had to start learning how to cook things, and maybe the love started there, or you just had to because you didn't want to die. But where did the real passion for cooking come from? And what types of things do you really just enjoy cooking? What are the things you look forward to the most?
I don't know. I think, I love the cooking process. I don't consider myself a creative cook, but I try and make things the absolute best they can be. So I love the classics necessarily. So I'm not big inventing new things, but I do like to take every single step possible to make it be the best it could possibly be.
Who do you go to for?
That's my culinary POV point of view.
Nice. Who do you go to for if people don't know where to go for the best, you're like, you should check this out. Like, if you just want a great recipe, go here.
Cooks Illustrated.
Cooks Illustrated?
Yeah. There's a subscription fee, but it's, in my opinion, by far one of the best.
Did you find this recipe there?
No.
Where'd you find this one?
This is just doing it for many, many years and kind of trying different things along the way, and coming to this technique.
This is Presano's Illustrated mashed potatoes.
If you want to call it that, yeah.
That's what I'm going to start calling it. That's great.
Yeah, and I think in addition to just loving the cooking process, and again, for me, it's not creative, but it is trying to engage, excellence in what I do. But needless to say, the opportunity to bless those you love with hopefully good food, and loving people in that way, which a lot of you like to do as well, and you're extremely good at it as well. So
what are the other things that I should be getting prepared before I get my potatoes in action?
That's a great question, because the one thing we didn't get that we need to prepare for is the colander. So we got to get ready for that.
Great sound effects.
Yeah.
It's the real deal.
And by the way, this is an extremely small portion of mashed potatoes.
Yes.
We're usually doing 10 to 15 pounds at a time. So
Giant pot.
this is only 2 pounds.
Well, you can smell it. You could.
Yeah.
Man, these glasses, I tell you, this is so much fun. But, all right, very cool. So any last little tips and tricks for just to kind of end that little moment before these potatoes are done on if someone's like, I really want to be more hospitable, and it just seems like it's a lot, like you've just done it so well, what's a step they could take just to start doing that more comfortably?
Well, in addition to being obedient and trusting God to help you through that step of faith to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, I believe you don't necessarily have to go looking for those opportunities. I believe God brings them across your path sometimes. And it's a matter of being sensitive to the Lord at that moment. God, do you want me to reach out to this person in this way? And in our world today, I believe those opportunities will come along pretty regularly with people. And I'm also reminded of what Pastor Gary always used to say, which I love, the simplicity of look for someone to help today. Yeah. So I don't think you have to go out of your way looking for that. It will cross your path, and then it's just a matter of listening to the voice of the Lord, listening to the voice of the Holy Spirit, taking a step of obedience, and trusting that God is going to give you what you need to help meet that person's need. We're not expected, and God doesn't want us to meet every person's need, but He wants us to meet the needs of those that He calls us to and asks us to meet those needs.
And that's really critical. I've even seen that in my life, where you just start to do it more often, you follow the Spirit, and then it gets easier to do that and hear Him every day.
Absolutely. Sorry, we got to interrupt
don't
that.
be sorry. We're excited. This is what we're doing.
You see how this? Okay, we're there. You see how it's just.
Can we get the camera in here to see this, or no? We can't bring it in. Okay, it's just very lightly touching it, and boom, it breaks.
Is it?
So we're ready. So we turn the stove top off.
If you don't
keep
mind,
the kids away.
You could.
I'm coming in.
Wipe that down.
Wipe this down. All right, I will do this while you drain those potatoes. This is exciting.
Nothing special about draining potatoes.
Just draining them.
Okay, but here is another Really, really important step that some people know, some people don't. That's okay. Okay, why am I doing this? Why am I putting them back on the heat?
This is another science test question.
Pretty much, yeah. Okay,
All right,
and
so
I'm going to leave them on there like that at a very, very low temperature. What would be the reason for that?
Are you going to mix it while you do it, or just leave it?
Just leave it.
So you've drained. They were light to a light touch. They broke. You drained them. You put them back in the pot, and now they're on a low heat. I don't know. To make sure all the extra water is out of the way, so you can infuse it with more butter.
I think you need to start your own cooking show. That's what I think.
You know, you got to start hosting other people's shows first.
Exactly.
And
So
then
you
can
see
start
the
doing
moisture
your
and the
own.
water evaporating from the potatoes. So the more water you can get out of the potatoes, the more milk and butter. Again, this is Thanksgiving only. You only do this once a year, so
Right.
it's okay. It'll be less watery and more of the good stuff that you can get in there. So I would say you can really leave it on there for quite a long time, but I would say a minimum that you want to leave that like that.
I will say these help getting closer if you really want to see what's going on in there. They're not fogging up as much. So
I would say a minimum of 15 or 20 minutes on a very low heat, obviously, so you don't burn them on the bottom. All right. So I think for the sake of video, we're not going to wait for that.
I don't think so. Well, yeah, but talk us through what you have in preparation over here in the wings while people are waiting for this to happen.
We have. Well, I gotta reheat this. Sorry. So we just have the butter, again, unsalted butter.
Okay.
And half and half.
This is the half and half, though. That's
the half and half, correct. And let's pretend that it's heated.
Okay.
For the sake of video, we're not heating it.
What do you
pretend
heat?
it is?
Like hot?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the reason for heating is twofold. So it doesn't cool down the potatoes as much, but also it makes it more creamy as you heat the half and half.
What would you say the ratio?
I don't know. It's all an eyeball thing. Oops, sorry.
Hold on, we're blowing up the kitchen.
Sorry.
Not mandatory, but sometimes fun.
All right.
Wow, there we go.
Okay.
That butter's heated.
So here's another. So unsalted butter, half and half. I prefer half and half. Milk can work okay. It's a little light. Heavy cream is way too much and too dense. We don't need to do that.
So I can see this is a lot of butter.
It is.
Yeah.
It is, but it's actually even less than what some other people recommend. But the general ratio to really bring mashed potatoes to the next level is 25 to 33. You know, a quarter to 30, a third.
Percent?
A third of the potatoes. So in other words, 2 pounds of potatoes, 25% of that is half a pound.
So if someone's making a giant pot, it's just like, dee, 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 dee. They're backing up a butter truck just to make it appropriate. Okay, so here we go. So butter's ready.
So the butter, make the goal of butter. If again, you're doing this once a year. 25% of the pounds of potatoes you're putting in.
Okay, and
2
that
pounds of potatoes,
this looks about right, yeah.
Half a pound of butter. All right. Okay. Why are we putting the butter in first before the half and half?
Why would we put the butter in before the half and half?
Correct. And I'm going to let you take that shot. Go ahead.
So that the potatoes infuse the flavor of the butter first?
No, it's a little technical. It's a little technical. The reason is because if you put the half and half in first, there's proteins in the half and half in milk, and the proteins will coat the potatoes and not allow the potatoes to absorb the butter.
So I was kind of right. I just didn't know my proteins.
Yeah,
That's all.
That's all.
Fine. Okay. So you don't mix this in the pot, or you do? You just get in a special mixer.
Sorry.
I tell you, man, this smells amazing.
Sorry for the delay here, guys.
This is awesome. Ooh.
Sorry for the delay. I'm coming.
Now you might not be able to see him off camera there, but he's
Okay.
getting these little egg beaters ready to rock and roll.
Time to
Put it on your heavy duty cutting board.
mix.
Turn off the stove.
Obviously, we are gonna mix away and press
Do you
away.
start on low, or you
Start on low so you don't splatter yourself.
Okay.
And we're mixing and we're mixing. Okay. You know what? I got to pause here for a second because for the real professional mashed potato makers out there, you know what I'm doing right now is anathema. This is like
Means really bad.
really bad, really bad. Anybody will tell you a hand mixer is not the best way to mix mashed potatoes.
Okay, what's the
And I
best?
completely agree. The best way is with a food mill or a ricer. Makes
Okay.
them makes them smooth and creamy and lighter. I completely agree.
Yeah.
However, as I said before, I normally make like 10 to 15 pounds of mashed potatoes, and I don't have the patience to stand there and mix
And you're
10 to 15 pounds of potatoes through a food mill or a ricer.
You are forgiven for doing that. You can go right. I'm sure most people will appreciate being allowed to use the egg beaters.
So we just incorporated the butter, mix it up a little bit, ready for the half and half.
Okay.
And now it's just an eyeball thing, looking for the consistency that I want. I like them a little bit looser than most people, I think. I don't like them too stiff.
Okay.
Some people say I make potato soup. That's an exaggeration.
Yeah, I
But
don't
it's
think
really
so.
not. It's not
Because
that
after it sits for a while, it kind of hardens up again.
Exactly. And I do not like that. So I like to start with them really loose.
Wow, that does look like soup.
Yeah.
Not really, but yeah.
It'll tighten
But that's the thing. Already it's starting to get tighter.
Right.
So that's
See, it's still too tight, right?
that looks
Still
good,
too
man.
tight.
I tell you.
All right.
Sorry, we
bit
can't help with
time.
the measurements, folks.
So you get it much looser than you want it to be because it will tighten up. So you want it pretty. I like it that way. Some people don't. That's fine. All right. Starting to tighten up again.
This is a pretty color for the table too. A nice little light, creamy looking potato. Very nice. This is kind of, just to use another biblical analogy, this is kind of how we beat out the sin in our lives.
There you go. All
You
right.
know, we
I
want to be
think this is the
smooth.
last- the
we want to be
last
a
shot,
creamy
yeah.
Christian.
That's you.
Okay.
Testing salt. I'm testing
This is
salt.
about as much as you're allowed to have according to the FDA. Okay, with the amount of butter and salt in here. Okay, so here we go. Oh man, those are creamy, man. These are my favorite. What do you? I think they're pretty salty.
Salt's good.
There's not too much salt though.
Right.
Funny, you'd think
doesn't-
there would have been.
It doesn't need more.
Oh my goodness, these are amazing. When I say these are the creamiest, most delicious potatoes you've ever had in your life, I'm not kidding. Our camera crew is about to be very blessed by this.
Sorry, I don't have gravy for you guys.
All right, no worries. So that's it. So then this is it. They're done. You just put them in the bowl and you serve it. Now this is a day of thing, right?
This is not only is this a day of thing. This is
The
a
last
last
thing you
minute
do.
thing because they don't sit well.
Okay.
The kind that you add sour cream and cream cheese to, which I generally don't do that, but you can do that. Those you make them ahead of time. You bake them in the oven, and then it's simpler that way.
This is a day of
But
thing.
what we just did has to be done literally right before you eat.
And it's so simple, really. I mean, it's a little wild to explain, but it really isn't that hard to do. Anybody in the family can probably
Just
do
those
this.
little simple technique things that just raise the bar.
So there
a
you
little
go.
bit,
This
so.
is it. This is how you make Presano Test Kitchen mashed potatoes, and they are the best mashed potatoes I've ever had in my life. This is Pastor Derek Presano. He's an excellent man, a godly man. Him and his family are some of the most hospitable people you will ever meet. And I encourage you, when you see him on a Sunday, just pull him aside, tell him, we tried your mashed potatoes. They were delicious. Tell me how I could be more hospitable like you. Pastor Derek, would you be so kind as to pray for everybody?
Absolutely.
That they would listen to the Lord, be obedient to see those opportunities he gives them to walk out hospitality.
Absolutely. Father, in Jesus' name, we thank you for your presence here today. We thank you for what you've poured into each one of us. Father, you've given us yourself, but you're also given us opportunity by way of gifts that you put in us to meet the needs of other people. And I ask that you, first of all, help us to identify what those are. And God, that you give us opportunities to take a step of faith, to be used by you, to see the power of your presence and your life impact other people, really even through these very, very practical things. And so I just pray that for everyone here, everybody listening, and we look forward to what you're going to do in our hearts and through us as we're completely surrendered to you. Father, we love you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Bless you, everybody. Enjoy Thanksgiving
Keep
with your
living
family.
well.